On the morning of the 27th of January 2011, an American technician, Raymond Allen Davis, left his private residence at Scotch Corner, Upper Mall in Lahore, Pakistan. He drove to a nearby ATM to withdraw cash and then drove to the Mazangchungi area of Lahore. He was in a white Honda Civic, blending into the usual traffic. As he pulled up near Kataba Chowk to stop for a red traffic light, he noticed a motorbike with two men pulling up near his car. As they drove past him to position themselves in front of his car, Davis pulled out a 9mm Glock pistol and shot 5 rounds through his windshield at the two men. As they dropped to the floor, Davis, calm and collected, walked out of the car, pistol in hand, firing off 4 more rounds into the two men as they lay on the pavement. He then took photos and videos of the casualties on his cell phone before returning back to his car. Instead of dialing the police, Davis took his radio and made a call. Minutes later, on the other side of Lahore, 4 armed men who exited from the same suburban house as Davis loaded up in a Toyota Land Cruiser with fake registration plates and quickly drove to the scene. As they got caught up in Lahore's bustling, busy roads, the driver decided to jump the central reservation on the carriageway and drive against oncoming traffic. This led to the Land Cruiser colliding with a motorcyclist who was unrelated to the initial incident. The vehicle fled the scene from the biker, who was on the floor critically injured, proceeding without stopping to the US consulate, jettisoning their items outside of Folletti's hotel. These included 4 magazines containing 100 bullets, battery cells, a baton, scissors, a pair of gloves, a compass with a knife, masks and blindfolds, and the American flag. Davis also fled the scene, but was stopped and apprehended by 2 traffic wardens at Old Anakali Food Street and handed over to the police. Upon searching Davis's car, it becomes evident that he was no usual technician, as his car held a Glock handgun, infrared light, portable telescope, GPS equipment, 2 cell phones, a satellite phone, 9mm ammunition, and multiple ATM and military ID cards, as well as a camera containing prohibited pictures of Pakistani military installations along the Indian border. The incident amplified anti-American sentiment across Pakistan. News of an American contractor gunning down 2 Pakistanis in broad daylight quickly circulated, leading to protests and an uproar in the media. Public opinion became a potent force, pressuring the Pakistani government to take a harder stance. Media coverage, both local and international, painted Davis as a spy rather than a diplomat, intensifying public calls for justice. As Davis was taken into investigation, he claimed he acted in self-defense, stating that the 2 men on the motorbike had attempted to rob him. He claimed that they had brandished a pistol and were about to rob him, so he acted quickly to save himself. However, police rejected this statement as eyewitnesses claimed the 2 men were not robbing him, although sidearms were found on the bodies of both men on the bike, Faizan Haider and Fahim Shamshad. However, no shots had been fired from these weapons. A senior police officer did claim that Faizan Haider has a criminal record, previously involved in dacoity, but neighbours, family and friends of the young man said they had no history of crime nor a criminal record. Furthermore, he stated he was an American working under diplomatic cover, citing this as his reason for carrying a weapon. He maintained that he believed his life was in danger, leading to his use of lethal force. The questioning became more complicated as Pakistani authorities suspected Davis was involved in duties that preceded standard consular duties. Due to what was found in his car, such as GPS and photos of military posts, it became increasingly clear that Davis was not a diplomat, but a spy or CIA operative. Raymond, the motorcyclist unconnected to these events, had passed away due to his injuries, causing 3 people killed in this ordeal. The 4 men had fled Pakistan and left the country after the US refused Pakistani requests to interview them. Pakistani officials later revealed that both men killed by Davis were, allegedly, working for the Inter-Services Intelligence, which is Pakistan's intelligence agency. They were following Davis as he had crossed a red line. Davis had travelled to Pakistan's federally administered tribal areas and met with some people without ISI approval, and was hence being followed to be intimidated, However, Davis denied this, claiming they were just robbers. Upon further investigation on Davis, it was found out he was a US Army vet with 10 years served. He was also a CIA contractor on behalf of Blackwater, an American private military contractor. After the shooting, Davis's claim of diplomatic immunity led to an international standoff between the United States and Pakistan. The US government claimed Davis was a diplomat, claiming he shouldn't be arrested under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. However, Pakistani authorities questioned this status, noting discrepancies and arguing his activities didn't align with typical diplomatic duties. On the 25th of January, 2 days before the incident, an embassy employee list from the US Embassy did not include his name, but a revised list a day after the incident had him assigned on the list, leading to belief that he was added to benefit from the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. What ensued was extreme pressure from the US government to Pakistan to release Davis. The Pakistani embassy in Washington was cut off from all communications with the US Department of State. Also, the United States House Committee on Armed Services conveyed a veiled threat that Pakistan-US defense cooperation could be under cloud if the standoff persisted regarding the diplomatic immunity of Davis. There was also unconfirmed reports of Pakistani ambassadors to the US receiving threats, as well as Pakistan's president, Zardaris' trip to Washington being rejected. Eventually, charges were dropped, and Davis was released after the Islamic payment of diya paid to the families of the deceased. This is essentially a payment that dismisses murder charges if the deceased families agree to the payment. Between $1.4 to $3 million, and Davis was flown out of Pakistan aboard a US aircraft accompanied by the US ambassador to Pakistan. Since 2008, there was an average of 2 to 3 drone strikes weekly in the federally administered tribal areas of Pakistan. However, there were no drone attacks from January 23rd, 4 days prior to Davis's arrest, until February 21st. This shows that as tensions were high between the two countries, the United States did lay off the strikes to allow it to simmer down. Furthermore, on the 28th of February, over 45 individuals in Pakistan were arrested for staying in constant contact with Davis. Media reported that over 30 American covert operatives had suspended their activities in Pakistan, and 12 had left the country. The standoff placed considerable strain on US-Pakistan relations, which were already delicate. Pakistan played a crucial role in the US-led war on terror, acting as both a strategic partner and a staging ground for intelligence and military operations. Yet there was a growing sense of resentment among Pakistanis, who felt their nation was treated more as a battleground than an ally. This incident exemplified the dependency versus resentment dynamic. While the US relied heavily on Pakistan's cooperation, it often acted unilaterally within Pakistani borders. The Davis affair forced Pakistan's leaders to walk a tightrope between public sentiment and their dependency on US aid, particularly given threats from the US House Committee on Armed Services that defense cooperation could be jeopardized if the diplomatic immunity issue was not resolved in Washington's favor. The pressure from Pakistani's complicated diplomatic efforts, as Pakistan's leaders had to balance international relations with the US against a backdrop of an increasingly hostile domestic audience. The case became symbolic of broader frustrations about sovereignty, with many Pakistanis seeing Davis's actions as a reflection of America's disregard for Pakistan's laws and borders.